And for the next half hour, I'll be reading from the Investigative Post on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. First article I'd like to read is Deadly Housing, a Deadbeat Landlord. Landlord Joseph Parlato has a history of housing code violations and failure to pay taxes and fees. A UB student last year died of injuries sustained in a fire at one of his properties, later deemed by inspectors not legal habitable space. This article is written by Adam Smith Perez. Landlord Joseph Parlato owns at least 14 residential properties in Erie County, all but one in the city of Buffalo. He has failed to pay city and county taxes and user fees on nearly all of them, to the tune of $250,000. Through a real estate site called ubhousing.com, Parlato has rented unlicensed attic rooms in the University Heights. Since 2020, Parlato's properties have been cited for more than 30 code violations. A year ago, a University of Buffalo student died as a result of a fire in one of these attic rooms, later deemed by city housing inspectors as not legal habitable space. Rameshwar Brahmbhatt, a 25-year-old student from India, was about to earn a master's degree in data science. He died on May 3, 2025, just weeks before his graduation. According to records, city inspectors have cited Parlato for numerous violations at 16 Merrimack Street, including for renting a non-habitable attic room and for operating a lodging house without a license. A trial is scheduled for Tuesday in Housing Court regarding the property. Last month, the county notified Parlato that it will foreclose on 3 of his tax-delinquent properties. Meanwhile, the city has failed to rein Parlato in, despite his owing $152,426 in property taxes and sewer bills. That's as of June 5th. The city of Buffalo does not enforce the law. It's as simple as that, said Fred Brace, a former housing court liaison for the University District. Landlords are taking advantage of foreign students who want a roof over their heads. As for city's failure to collect money, it's a complete abdication of fiscal responsibility, Brace said. It's either stupidity or dereliction of duty. Brahmbhatt's family told Investigative Post that in the aftermath of Rameshwar's death, Parlato avoided them and to this day has not returned a single one of their phone calls. There was no empathy from Parlato's side when we tried to reach out, said Kubi Brahmbhatt, Rameshwar's sister. He knew that my brother was not just injured, he was dead. It appears that city officials failed to complete their investigation of the fire per documents obtained by Investigative Post. According to records from the investigation, department officials concluded that the fire at 16 Merrimack claimed 0 victims. Parlato, 83, refused to comment, saying, "I'm not well. Don't call me for a few days," before he hung up on Investigative Post reporters. An incomplete investigation. According to fire department records, Rameshwar's housemates called 911 around 8:30 p.m. on the night of April 29, 2025. About 10 minutes later, firefighters arrived. The fire broke out in the attic while Rameshwar was in the shower. When Rameshwar opened the bathroom door, his body was scorched by the heat, according to Brombett's recounting of her conversations with fire department officials and one of her brother's housemates. Flames and smoke engulfed the attic as Rameshwar called out for his roommates to call 911. She and the housemate said. The housemate remembers rushing upstairs to save Rameshwar, even though they couldn't see through the smoke, and wrapping his body with towels. An ambulance arrived shortly thereafter and took Rameshwar to Erie County Medical Center. The housemates grabbed their passports, permanent resident cards, and whatever they could fit into their suitcases. For a moment, two housemates, including the one that Investigative Post spoke to on condition of anonymity, stayed behind with the fire and police department to answer questions. According to Rameshwar's former housemate, fire officials did not provide any further details from their investigation, only saying it was an accident. Department records obtained through a Freedom of Information Law request indicate that there were $75,000 in damages. Otherwise, the fire department's investigation report is mostly blank, with no case summary or further details. The report indicates that there were no victims. Bromwich had described her brother, an awfully sarcastic young man who loved politics, horror films, and cricket. He was over 6 feet tall, which made him a peacemaker of sorts, his sister said. If two of his friends were fighting, you could see him putting himself between and separating them, and talking some sense into people, Bromwich said. We used to just grab a lot of snacks, and we did movie marathons back to back. Rameshwar moved to the United States to study at UB in August 2023. About a year into his studies, Rameshwar moved in with a group of friends at 16 Merrimack, a 3-story house off of Main Street and blocks from the South Campus. Each housemate paid $500 a month for their room. Bromwich said the family met with fire officials on May 9th, but was told by officials that the property was likely not in violation. The attic, the family was told, had 2 exits. However, city inspectors had just cited 16 Merrimack on May 1st, 2 days after the fire, for a dozen housing code violations, including renting out the attic room. Upon inspection after a fire, the 3rd floor was illegal sleeping, an illegal sleeping unit that must be removed, the inspectors wrote. Aftermath of the fire at 16 Merrimack. Meanwhile, Parlato was missing in action when the family reached out, Bromwich said. He never once in an entire week picked up the phone, she told Investigative Post. My parents were really in a bad emotional state at the time. It was very emotionally exhausting for us to constantly try and reach him, so we gave up on that, honestly. Instead, the family focused on settling the legalities of Rameshwar's death, obtaining a death certificate and his degree, meeting with administrators at UB, organizing a funeral, and bringing his ashes home. We had to figure everything out in a different country. We had to do a different kind of funeral, which we know nothing about, Rameshbat said. Before the family returned to India, they paid one final visit to 16 Merrimack on May 12th. They knew the house was in bad shape, but it didn't matter. Late that morning, with all options exhausted, the Brombats called the police to see if they could be let into the house. Officers who arrived on the scene told the Brombats that it wouldn't be possible. My parents still wanted whatever was left in that room, she said. All we wanted was some stuff. We had faith that what they were saying was true, that we did not have anything to worry about in terms of illegal construction. In addition to the code violations at 16 Merrimack, records show that Parlato has active violations for renting out an unlicensed attic apartment next door at 18 Merrimack and 53 Englewood Avenue, and refused entry to inspectors shortly after the date of the fire last May. Parlato's problems extend beyond code violations. As of June 5th, public records shows that he owes $152,426 in city taxes and sewer bills, $77,844 in county taxes, and $18,013 in city garbage fees. According to records, Parlato owns at least 13 properties in the city of Buffalo. 5 of them are located in Elmwood Village and Allentown. The rest are located on the west side and University Heights. One residential property is listed in the town of Aurora. A county spokesperson confirmed that Parlato has been sent foreclosure notices for delinquent tax liens on 3 properties: 32 Baker Street in Elmwood Village, 3214 Main Street in University Heights, and 2029 Boise Road in the town of Aurora. Parlato's property manager, James Andalaro, told an Investigative Post reporter that the incident at 16 Merrimack and Parlato's debts were none of your blank business. Permits and Inspections Commissioner Louis Petrocchi declined to comment, saying that the fire occurred before his tenure. On Tuesday, Parlato will face Judge Dabney in the Housing Court for violations related to 16 Merrimack. City inspectors have cited Andalaro for failing to obtain a property manager license. He described the fatal fire as a horrible moment, but he said neither he nor Parlato bear responsibility for Rameshwar's death. Andalaro also denied any wrongdoing in renting the attic room, despite city inspectors issuing violations. Andalaro said neither he nor Parlato have an obligation to communicate with Rameshwar's family. The owner didn't have a contract with the family. He did with Rameshwar. Andalaro said, "I don't owe anybody anything." Brombat said the grief of losing her brother has been hard to put into words. Losing a sibling is not something a lot of people pay attention to, she said. It's kind of like losing a bit of your past and your future. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Investigative Post on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The next article was written by J. Dale Shoemaker. Migrant death in Pittsburgh mirrors Buffalo case. A memorial in Pittsburgh for Haitian migrant Daffy Michael, who died in March. Photo by Sophia Lucente, courtesy of Pittsburgh's public source. Just days after refugee Nourel Amin Shah Alam died in downtown Buffalo, another migrant in Pittsburgh also died on the street in the cold. The cases bear eerie similarities and both have attracted the attention of congressional representatives. Legislation is now pending in the House of Representatives to prevent future migrant deaths. Shah Alam died February 24th after he had been released by Border Patrol agents at a closed coffee shop days earlier. His death was caused by a burst intestinal ulcer and ruled a homicide because agents had placed him into a hostile environment that he could not have gotten himself out of, the Erie County Medical Examiner later ruled. In Pittsburgh, a nearly identical fact pattern played out less than a week later. Daffy Michael, a Haitian immigrant, died March 2nd at a bus stop in the city's South Shore. She'd ended up there after she was released from ICE custody. Her death, due to hypothermia, was also ruled a homicide because it was caused by the actions of another individual, according to the Allegheny County Office of the Medical Examiner. Like Shah Alam, Michael had been incarcerated on charges that were later dropped before her transfer to immigration custody. She spent 6 months in Washington County Correctional Facility on a misdemeanor charge of making terroristic threats and harassment. Local authorities dismissed those charges and she was released to ICE custody in late February. ICE enrolled her in the agency's Alternatives to Detention program, a type of parole, and released her from its South Side office on February 28th. She then walked some 30 blocks to the South Shore bus stop, where she died March 2nd. Pittsburgh's Public Source, a nonprofit news outlet, later obtained surveillance footage from the Pittsburgh Regional Transit showing Michael sat at the bus stop for more than 24 hours before dying from the cold. A full review suggests that Michael may have been in the shelter the entire time, the news outlet reported in April, based on its review of the video footage. Her position changed little other than moving from one side of the bench to the other from the morning of March 1st until early on March 2nd. After being discovered by a transit employee the morning of March 2nd, Michael was transported to a hospital where she was pronounced dead in the early afternoon. Like Border Patrol in the Shah Alam case, ICE denied responsibility for Michael's death. In a statement to Investigative Post, Pittsburgh area Representative Summer Lee said the 2 migrant deaths exposed the horrifying truth that the Trump administration is taking vulnerable people into custody, stripping them of their safety and support, and then abandoning them as though their lives did not matter. These were avoidable tragedies and are the result of a violent, reckless system that treats immigration status as permission to discard human beings, Lee said. Representative Tim Kennedy of Buffalo has introduced the DHS Release Transparency Act, which would require Homeland Security agents, including ICE and Border Patrol, to notify a friend, family member, or attorney when releasing a migrant from custody. Lee said her office is reviewing that legislation, but said notification alone is not enough. She pointed to two bills she supports that go much further. One would end ICE detention altogether. Lee also co-sponsors the Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act, a legislation aimed at increasing detention standards for immigrants. No one should leave federal custody without safe shelter, transportation, language access, medical and mental health support, and a confirmed handoff to someone who can help them, she said. Next, we have an article entitled Driver of Abandoned Tesla is an Ex-Cop. Tom George, a former police officer and elected official, is charged abandoning a car in Niagara Square 2 weeks ago. In the vehicle, police found a loaded gun belonging to D.J. Granville, the former Erie County narcotics chief. This article is written by Jeff Kelly. The driver charged with abandoning a Tesla in which police found a loaded gun belonging to the Erie County Sheriff's scandal-plagued former narcotics chief is himself a former cop. The driver, Thomas George, was a Town of Evans police officer for 23 years. A Republican, he also served one 4-year term on the town board from 2020 to 2023, including 9 months as acting town supervisor. His current job is Chief Operating Officer for Buffalo Biodiesel, the company that employs Greenville as a security contractor. George, 60, on May 22nd was charged with 4 traffic violations, according to documents obtained by Investigative Post through a Freedom of Information request, including leaving the scene of an accident. Police sources told Investigative Post that surveillance camera video captured George exiting a restaurant on Chippewa on the evening of May 19th and driving away in a gray 2022 Tesla sedan registered to Buffalo Biodiesel. The car was assigned to D.J. Granville, the former chief of narcotics for the Erie County Sheriff's Office, who retired in April and has since been working as a security contractor for the company, according to his attorney, Terry Connors. After driving away from the restaurant, George made an improper left turn from Chippewa Street onto Delaware Avenue, according to the charging documents, then failed to stay in his lane on Delaware. He rolled through the stop sign at Delaware and Niagara Squares, according to the charges. Finally, he abandoned the vehicle in the street between City Hall and Robert H. Jackson Federal Courthouse, according to Buffalo Police, who later that evening responded to a 911 call from federal court's officer. The caller reported a white male wearing a dark blue jacket, light blue shirt, and tan pants exiting a car that had damage to the front driver's side, according to an incident report. The car was unlocked and still running when police arrived. Officers from the Accident Investigative Unit found Granville's loaded gun in the car's trunk, as well as his prescription medicine, a checkbook, a cell phone, and other belongings, including his sheriff's-issued retirement badge. Police also found paperwork bearing the name of George's wife. George reached out his cell phone the day after police found and searched the vehicle, refused to comment, referred Investigative Post to a statement issued by his employer, and hung up. He did not answer a call. Later, walking away from the car earned George the same charge to which Granville pleaded guilty last August, leaving the scene of an accident that caused property damage. Granville, in April 2024, plowed his county-owned pickup truck into 7 parked cars on Buffalo's west side. Investigative Post, nearly a year later, broke the story of the late-night spree, sparking intense media coverage and a series of investigations that ended in Granville pleading guilty to misdemeanor charges and paying $75,000 restitution for damage claims paid by the county. He also served a 30-year unpaid suspension and retired in April. Several Buffalo police officers who responded to the scene, including his sister-in-law, at the time a lieutenant, were disciplined for failure to follow procedures in responding to the incident, including failure to administer sobriety tests. The sister-in-law, Lucia Escalin, was demoted to detective sergeant in December. The day after George abandoned the Tesla in Niagara Square, Granville was charged at the B District Police Station with improper storage of a firearm, a misdemeanor. Granville's gun, a Glock, had a full magazine and 1 bullet in the chamber, according to the police report, which indicated officers found it in a bag in the car's front trunk. The charges against George are all traffic violations. He is scheduled to appear at the Buffalo Traffic Violations Agency in City Hall on June 25th at 9:30 a.m. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features in the Investigative Post. We read from the Investigative Post on Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Your reader has been Susan, and thank you for listening.
Good morning. Welcome to another broadcast day on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private not-for-profit organization. As always, please feel free to contact us with your comments, suggestions, and any questions you may have, and please stay with us. Our reading of the Buffalo News is coming up in just a minute. A quick note, because Saturday is the 4th of July, Tomorrow we will be closed. We'll get into our programming changes in a little while. Stay with us, though.
The following program